The Polish P-64 9x18 Makarov. This was designed once pressure was starting to be put on all the communist bloc countries to adapt a similar round. And the Russians had come up with the 9x18 Makarov to be different than the 9mm Luger, so it wouldn't be compatible, couldn't be fired in enemy guns. The Poles began to design their own handgun aside from the standard Russian Makarov, and this was designed by 4 Polish military officers. In fact, their last names are the initials CZAK, and this was also known as the CZAK, not to be confused with the CZ from the Czech Republic. Takes a lot of similarities from the Walther design. It was adapted in 1964 until 1983 officially, but these are still being used by the Polish military today. Now, there were 2 different pistols that were entered into the Polish military trials. This is the Model M, and originally it was in .380. And then there was the Model W, which it was in the 9x18 Makarov. The Model W had a longer slide, similar to the Walther PP, which this was more in line with the Walther PPK. The Model M was chosen, but it was rechambered for the Makarov round. First thing we're going to do is safety check the gun, make sure it's unloaded, and it is. The P-64 is a totally different design than the Russian Makarov, or Makarov. I'm going to say Makarov because that's what I've been saying for a long time, but I think officially it's called the Makarov. And this was a totally different design, very similar in appearance to the Walther PPK, but they have certain patents on this pistol that are completely different than the Walther design. It is a blowback design, one of the things that's really used a lot with the Makarov round. Now, these have been coming into the country for quite some time. I did get this one particularly from AIM Surplus for $259. I think originally they were around the $200 mark. One of the things I want to mention right here with all surplus pistols and rifles coming into the country, but as the supply dwindles and the demand increases, these will dry up and the prices will go up. We've seen it over and over. Typically they come with 2 steel magazines with the small little finger rest. This is for the Makarov round. It's 9x18, and it's important to differentiate. On the slide it says 9mm, but it's 9x18, and that is the Makarov round. Now, the 9mm by 18 Makarov is right here in the center. This is the 9mm Luger. Then we have the .380, which is actually a 9x17. So there's some slight differences between the two. One of the main differences with the Makarov is the bullet diameter is just a touch larger than your .380. Now, the Russians were very specific in making this difficult to go in the 9mm pistol, so it's not compatible. As far as power goes, the 9mm Makarov is just slightly more powerful than the .380, but definitely not as powerful as the 9mm. And there's a lot of debate, but for our purposes right now, the .380 comes in at the lowest, the Makarov slightly more ballistically advantageous, and then your 9mm, which is a lot higher pressure, velocity, and really just a better self-defense round. Now, here we have the 9mm Makarov with the 7.62 by 25 Tokarov round, and this is the round that the Makarov replaced. In fact, I just recently did a review on the M57 Makarov. In fact, I'll have it annotated right here. Ballistically, the 7.62 by 25 has really high energy, a high velocity, but it is a smaller round. And today, or the 9mm NATO round is replacing the 9x18 Makarov round. Now, this is representative of the TT pistol that the P-64 replaced. And you can see it's a much smaller pistol, more compact. It weighs less. In fact, the weight on the P-64 is 21.2 ounces. The weight on the M57 is 30.1 ounces, so a considerable difference. Now, the P-64 is a double single-action pistol, which is superior to just the single-action TT pistol that it replaced. It is an all-steel pistol, frame and slide. One of the things about this pistol is the really superb finish. It's been really well done. In fact, it's very molded, and the bluing on this one was really exceptional, and from all the ones that I've seen so far, they seem to be really nice. Now, I just ordered this blindly from AIM Surplus, and just to see what I got. And obviously, they're coming out with some really nice pistols. Very little holster wear, But other than that, I don't think this pistol's been shot that much. One of the things about this pistol, though, is the trigger pull. And again, we're going to go ahead and double check to make sure the gun isn't loaded. Single action with the hammer back, and you can see, is a very nice trigger pull. In fact, it's one of the best trigger pulls that I've seen. The double action trigger pull is probably one of the worst that I've seen. In fact, you have to really get a hold of it. It's over 20 pounds. Some have even said that some of them are 24 pounds. But there is a remedy out there with Wolf springs, and they have a set specifically for the P-64, and I think it would be a wise investment with this gun. In fact, I'm going to do that exact thing, and I'll do a demonstration and show you how to replace the springs. Really, the trigger pull is pretty much atrocious. Using my Lyman trigger pull gauge from Brownells, the single action trigger pull was going around the 4-pound mark. 4.6. Typically, I think I averaged it out at about 4.11. So it really has a nice crisp trigger. The max on the trigger pull gauge is 12 pounds. Just to give you an idea, I can't even pull, it says over, I can't even pull this with my trigger pull gauge without breaking it. But the single action trigger pull has just a little bit of trigger let up right here, and then it is a really crisp snap. Typically, military sidearms are not designed to carry a round in the chamber. So on your first round anyway, you would be pulling the slide back. But in 1972, they did do some trigger work to make these a little bit more easy to pull that trigger. Now the reset is really unusual. It's not very definite. You can hear it right there. It does come out quite a bit. But the take-up is really light to get that second shot for your trigger pull right there. Now the lack of a definite reset in this, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about finger discipline and resetting that trigger. But it is what it is. There is no definite reset, and if you pull the trigger too quickly, you're not going to be able to fire the pistol. So I know in many of my shooting sequences, even when I was watching a lot of my range footage, you know, the finger does come out a little bit farther than I like for it to. But that has everything to do with the reset of this pistol. This does hold open with the last round with the magazine in place. There is no external slide lock. So you're not going to be able to drop that slide unless you remove the magazine. And then just pull back and it goes forward. But the slide lock that is activated by the magazine is also your ejector. And that's one of the things that was a patent from this design with the Polish military. The grip comes up nice, and it keeps the hand a little low from getting slide bite. But one of the things I really like about this slide is that it does have bevels here. So even if you had really meaty hands and they came up, you're not going to get that sharp slide bite into your hand. It's definitely got quite a bit more snap with the 9x18 round, especially more than 380. To be honest with you, because of the blowback design, you're going to get a little bit more recoil felt with this pistol, and you do. If you'll get a very firm grip, though, not super firm with your shooting hand, but more or less with your supporting hand, and just get ready, the recoil seems to really even out. So you just need to be aware of that, especially if you're going to carry this or depend on this as a home defense or a concealed carry. Now, as you can see, it does have a notched hammer. The original design had a flat hammer, so you weren't able to cock the hammer back if the hammer was recessed. This was an advantage in being able to pull back. It does have a slide mounted safety that can be actuated. There are 3 different positions, and the first one we're going to see for safety is that when you bring the safety down and cover up the red, it is a decocker. The hammer will not move. The trigger will just free float. Now this safety can also be moved into the half position, and that will also disengage the trigger and the hammer will not fall. Now I have the gun in the fire position, and as I bring the safety down to the halfway point, you can see there is a hammer block right here, and then when you go ahead and then it drops onto the hammer block. Now many of the Makarov pistols have become very popular with the concealed carry. This is no exception. In fact, to me, this is a superior concealed carry option because of how thin and how compact the pistol is. But one of the issues you're going to have, considering that there is no protection from this pistol being dropped and a round being fired, that is going to kind of limit things. But bringing that safety down into that half-notch position, it's going to allow you to be able to carry this with a hammer block. I'm not really sure why this is not rated, but obviously I've heard it from a number of sources. So if you are going to conceal carry this, definitely be careful, because according to reports, this can happen. You'll notice this little silver dot above the hammer, and this is the loaded chamber indicator. It's both visible and tactile. Now here's the chamber indicator flush. Add a round in it. Here you can see it protruding, you can feel it, and you can see it. The sights are very small, and it does have a squared off rear dovetail sight, so it is somewhat windage adjustable. And then you have just a front blade sight. These sights can be fairly difficult to pick up, but they are actually pretty adequate. And because of the fixed barrel design of the blowback, these guns are really accurate. Yeah, I think this will definitely do the trick. The fixed barrel does help with the accuracy. The recoil is snappy, and so that does also factor in. One thing I like is the anti-glare checkering that's been done, very nicely finished. In fact, again, the whole pistol is just a very well finished look to it. And that comes a lot with more of the old school machining, and of course the bluing is very nice. The barrel length is 3.3 inches. The overall length of the pistol is 6.3 inches, and the height of the pistol is 4.6 inches. Again, this is about the perfect size for a concealed carry piece. It gives you enough heft with the size of the pistol. It has a really good grip to it, especially with the finger pad on the magazine. Now I have medium hands, so this really feels really good in the hand. I think if you have larger hands, it's going to be a little more difficult, but I think you can still do it. This is just an excellent, well-made little handgun. The Poles really took pride in their firearm manufacturing, and I think it really shows in this P-64. On the slide itself, right here is the import manufacturer, PW Arms, and then we have the Arsenal information right here, 9x18, 9mm P-64. The pistol was made in 1974, and with the Circle 11, that indicates that it was made in the Radom plant, which is world famous for Polish weapons. This particular one has matching serial numbers as well. The grips are plastic with nice checkering. They do fit very ergonomically in the hand, and they're very comfortable. I think you can find some aftermarket wood grips if you're looking for that. The magazine release is the heel type. It's almost recessed into the grip. Once you get used to it, it's not too bad. Magazines slide in and out pretty quickly. Of course, you know, you're getting a piece of history, and this is more of your European design styling. No malfunctions, no hiccups, which is obviously very reassuring with a pistol, and it just functions, it just shoots. And from all I've read, same testimony. It's just these guns just function no matter what you put through them. So I'm looking forward to doing some more different type ammos through it. There are a number of companies producing the 9mm Makarov. A lot of self-defense loads and different things. This Red Army standard, it's steel cased, it's non-corrosive, and really it's just excellent. This is made in the Ukraine and imported by Century Arms International. I picked these up at Palmetto State Armory in these range packs, and very reasonable, about $12 a box for 50, which is not bad. So an excellent buy on a lot of the surplus ammo out there as well. Of course, the slots in the side of the steel magazines, you can see the rounds. The lips ride kind of high, so when loading it, you have to really get to the front of the magazine to load it. Now, disassembly of the P-64 is really simple. We're going to make sure, of course, the gun isn't loaded. The trigger guard pulls down, and then you pull the slide to the rear and lift up. Behind the camera, it's somewhat tough to do, a lot tougher than it is without the camera. But take it back, bring it out, and it comes right out. Here you have your fixed barrel design. This is very accurate. And most of your 380 pistols and the Makarov pistols usually function a lot better in this stable blowback design. You have your recoil spring. Here you can see the ejector and the slide stop. Then of course all the machining is just a little bit rougher on the interior, but not really that bad. Very similar to the Walther design. Here you get a little bit better look at the firing pin and the firing pin block. To reassemble, bring your trigger guard down, take your slide, pop it into place. One thing that I've done is I'll just rest it on the frame. Makes it really easy. You're back in business. Now again, the P-64 served Polish forces from 1964 and really into present day. These saw a lot of action during Vietnam with the NVA and the Viet Cong. They were also issued to Lebanese forces, about 1,000 of these, back in 2003. But that's pretty much the limit of the military use of this handgun. It has been used by police forces quite a bit in the eastern countries, and of course now being available right here in the U.S., it's become a really popular civilian handgun. I've owned and shot a number of Polish firearms, and the quality is always excellent. So, you know, if you're really looking for a good surplus pistol, 9mm Makarov is a great round, especially for concealed carry. Of course, this is a little bit heavier than your polymer frames, but honestly, I don't think I'd really want to shoot one of these too much with a polymer frame. With the snappiness of the round, but you know, the one thing I always realize is the more you're getting back on your end, the more it's delivering out the front. But I think you could have a lot of confidence with the reliability and the accuracy of this pistol. Right now they are available at AIM Surplus. Of course, once the supplies go, who knows who's going to have them next. I think you can probably do some searches. But P-64 is an excellent little pistol, and one that's just great to add into your collection, especially if you really like military surplus sidearms. Makarov, whatever you want to call it, it's a pretty neat little pistol. I'll just call it the P-64. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And then the slide is brought back and then lift up. Ow. This was designed in the late 50s when the Russians started requesting the 9 but after about 100 rounds of this one, I think I'm ready to put it away for a little bit.